Hello everyone, welcome to the course Geotechnical Engineering 2. So in this particular lecture number 7, we will be discussing on the different shear strength tests that are there. Okay, so in the previous class we have discussed some of the introduction to shear strength and what are the tests that we perform in this particular case to find out the shear strength of a particular soil. Okay, so now we will try to understand the another test that is there to find out the shear strength of a soil, that is triaxial test. Okay, so before that, let us now look at the course outline once again. So till now, in the initial stages of these lectures, we have discussed about the shear strength and then the different theories that we apply, say Morse theory, Coulomb's theory, how these two theories are changed by Terzaghi. These has been discussed. Now, we have started in our previous session the shear strength test that are conducted in the field as well as in the laboratory. Okay, so out of all these we have tried to understand what is the importance of laboratory tests. Okay, and then we have started the discussion with the direct shear test. So in today's lecture we will be discussing on the triaxial test under different drainage conditions what we have discussed, and then we will try to understand the stress strain behavior of this particular type of thing. Okay, now coming to the previous session case. Okay, so we have discussed the introduction. We have discussed the introduction to the various tests that are both laboratory as well as field tests. So after that, we have understood in a field conditions when we are applying external loads. Okay, what is the influence of the self weight of soil present around the sample that we are collecting, and apart from that, what is the additional stress, say the building load or the foundation load that is present. Okay, in a similar case, we have started to understand after collecting the soil sample and replacing it for the testing in the laboratory, how we attain these, okay, how we attain these field conditions in the laboratory. And apart from that, we have understood this for the different drainage conditions that are there. Okay, because we need to simulate this to the actual field problem. Furthermore, we have initially started with the direct shear test. We have understood the different apparatus that are there and then the procedure, and then we have understood for this case what are the different drainage conditions that can be applied so that we can obtain the shear strength of the soil. Finally, after conducting the test, we need to determine the stress strain behavior of this particular type of soil for the type of loading done. Okay, this has been discussed in our previous cases. Looking at the drainage conditions once again, so if you have a look here, as I have stated that the major purpose of finding out the shear strength is to evaluate the shear or failure plane of a particular type of soil. Okay, for that we need to use appropriate drainage conditions, and the main thing is that we try to simulate this to the actual field problem. Okay, so as I have stated, for this we have two conditions. One is the consolidation stage, the other one is the shear stage. So if you look at the consolidation stage, what do we mean by consolidation stage? So then in the consolidation stage, initially, let us say on a particular soil sample, let us say there is a cylindrical soil sample, and on the cylindrical soil sample in the initial stage the axial load is applied. Okay, so what about the shearing stage? So apart from that, say in the consolidation stage, stresses or the load is applied to a particular soil sample in all the directions. Let us say this is sigma 3 for our convenience. Let us say this is sigma 3 for our convenience. So this is what is happening in the consolidation. So because of this external stress applied or the load applied on this particular soil sample, what is happening? The amount of water, okay, that is present in the soil mass here, it is trying to come out. That means consolidation is taking place. Okay, so now coming to the shear stage, due to some additional stress applied, say sigma d, axially I am applying sigma d only in one particular direction. So because of this additional stress, so what is happening? This particular soil will try to fail after a certain point of time. Say the failure is in this manner. Clear? So this is what is happening after consolidation stage. We are happening with shear stage. Clear? Now, so this can be applied under three different conditions. So what are those? We have discussed that there is unconsolidated undrained stage, and then consolidated undrained stage, that is CU condition, and then finally the consolidation drained condition, that is CD condition. So we have these three different types of conditions. So let us look at the first one. Here, unconsolidated undrained condition. That means if you look at here in the unconsolidated, that means in the initial stage itself there is no consolidation taking place. Okay, that means this is one condition where in the initial stage, let us say this is initial stage 1, this is stage 2, for which the sample, for whatever sample we are considering, we have to apply the load so that consolidation will take place and then shear will take place. So if you look at the first condition, so what is happening? It is unconsolidated undrained. That means there is no consolidation in the stage 1, and then undrained. That means in both these stages there is no drainage. In both these stages there is no drainage. If you look at the second case now, it is consolidated undrained. That means CU. That means in the initial stage, whenever we are applying load, consolidation is taking place. Okay, but if you look at here, it is undrained. That means in this particular stage 2 there is no drainage. In this stage 2 there is no drainage. Finally, if you look at the consolidated drained condition, that means in both these cases consolidation is taking place as well as drainage is allowed. Okay, drainage is allowed. So this you need to keep in mind, the difference between the three conditions that we apply. Now coming to the triaxial compression test. So this test is also known as simply a triaxial test. So in general, this type of test is suitable for all types of soils. Okay, regardless of the type of soil, this test can be performed on any type of soil. Now furthermore, so in general we consider a cylindrical soil specimen. For this test we consider a cylindrical soil specimen, unlike our direct shear test where we consider a cubical body. So here a cylindrical specimen is considered. You need to keep in mind that in general the length or the height of this specimen must be, or divided by its diameter must be equal to 2. Simply the length or the height of the sample must be 2 times the diameter of the sample considered. So the general standard samples that are there are say 38 mm or 100 mm or even 300 mm. So these are the general test samples that we do. So in our previous lab, whenever we have considered, we generally go for 38 mm sized dia. Furthermore, so here as I have stated, initially there are two stages, that means consolidation stage and your shear stage. Okay, let us say in the initial stage I have applied a confining pressure of sigma c. I have applied a confining pressure of sigma c in the initial stage. So because of this, sigma 3 is equal to sigma c, consolidation is taking place. So after certain amount of time, I am applying this additional stress or additional load. So because of this additional load, this shear will happen. Okay, that you need to remember here. Now, so this is the typical arrangement of a triaxial apparatus. Coming to this part, this is the typical arrangement. If you look at this outer line here, okay, if you look at this outer line here, this is a casing of a triaxial apparatus where this entire container is hollow, and we place this test soil sample. We place this test soil sample in it, and then of a standard dimension, say 38 mm height or 38 mm dia and 76 mm height. So what we do, we initially fill the entire thing with certain amount of water using this cell pressure. Okay, we using the cell pressure after placing the soil sample, we try to place the entire water in this container, so that what will happen, the water will start exerting some stress along these directions. This will be our sigma 3 or sigma c initially. So now the soil sample is placed on a porous disc. Because of the external loads applied, some amount of water will come out. That means consolidation will take place. So that has to be observed. So that is why there is one outlet here as well as here. Okay, there is one outlet here as well as here. Clear? Apart from that, so this additional piston that is there, okay, this additional piston that is there, so after applying this confining pressure sigma 3, now what will happen, consolidation has taken place up to a certain limit. Now what we have to do, we have to additionally apply some amount of load. So that is our deviator stress, that is sigma d. So okay, so using this piston sort of arrangement, that additional stress is applied on the soil so that shear will take place after a certain amount of time. So using this, we try to evaluate the amount of deviator stress that is taken by the soil or the load taken by the soil, and we correspondingly using a small dial gauge we try to observe the displacement. Now, so this is a typical arrangement what we have seen in our laboratory. So if you look at here, this is a proving ring to measure the, this is a proving ring PR, which is used to measure the amount of load taken. Okay, and this is a dial gauge, this is a dial gauge to measure the vertical deformation. Okay, so this entire container is a typical setup of our triaxial apparatus, where this is our specimen here. Okay, if you look at this one, this is a small specimen which is surrounded by a small membrane, a rubber membrane or a porous membrane. Now, so as I've stated, this is the proving ring to evaluate the deviator load, and this is a dial gauge to measure the vertical displacement. So these two are very much important for our calculation purpose. Let us look at how. Okay, so as I've stated, we need to evaluate the deviator stress, and using the vertical displacement we need to find out the axial strain. That means axial load is applied. If you look at here, axial load, if this is a sample, axial load is applied sigma d. Okay, and after certain time, say it is coming down in this manner, that means there is a small deformation. Let us say this is delta h and initial height is say h, initial height is h. That means the change in length to original length, we can find out the axial strain. Okay, so to the corresponding deformation we use the deviator stress and axial strain to understand the stress strain behavior. Now, so as I've stated, we will just try to plot the axial strain and the deviator stress in this manner. So if you look at a dense sand, we'll just a typical curve like this. Okay, say this is for a particular dense sand where it is initially rising up to a peak value and then it is getting a constant rate. So here one thing you need to understand, that the maximum peak value of the deviator stress is represented by the shear stress on the failure plane. Okay, so this value, the maximum deviator stress will be equal to the shear stress on the failure plane, that you need to know. Similarly, if you look at a loose sand, since it is completely very comparatively weak compared to the dense sand, so a typical graph will be somewhat curved in a particular path and it will become constant up to a certain rate. So at that point, if you take the maximum value, that will be equal to the shear failure or the shear stress on the failure plane, in that way. Now, furthermore, apart from that, if we look at the volumetric strain now, we have looked at axial strain. So if you look at volumetric strain for the similar plot, let us say shear displacement is plotted on the x-axis, and then the volumetric strain that is happening, delta V by V, is taken on the y-axis. In case of dense sand, what will happen? It will try to compress initially, but after some time it will try to resist, because it is the sand is dense. Okay, so if you look at the graph, it will try to compress and then it will try to increase. So that is why in case of dense sand or over consolidated clay, you may find this type of curve. But if you consider the loose sand, what will happen? It will completely compress due to the additional deviator stress. Okay, so that is the major difference. Now finally, looking at the failure envelope. So if you look at the failure envelope, let us look this particular failure envelope for two different cases, say normally consolidated clay and over consolidated clay. We have seen the difference in our previous semester, what is over consolidated clay, what is normally consolidated clay. So if you look at this particular curve here, in case of a normally consolidated clay, if I take three different test samples and if I plot a graph on sigma and tau space, then the normal stress will pass through the origin. So that is why your cohesion intercept C dash is 0. But if you look at the over consolidated clay, then it will be somewhat starting with the intercept. Okay, it will be somewhat starting with the intercept. Now, so that is regarding the triaxial test. So I have mentioned some of the assignment questions here. Try to just solve them. Okay, so in the upcoming lecture we will be discussing on the unconfined compression strength test as well as Wayne shear test. Okay, Thank you very much, and if you have any clarifications, just please post on this. Okay, thank you.